Welcome, everyone, to the PetaPixel podcast. It's Jordan Drake here with my friend Chris Nichols.
Hi.
My other friend Jaron's here, too. This is great. Wow. And this week, we're going to talk about some of the biggest disasters that we've ever had of our own fault or otherwise while
Never
we're doing
our fault.
the show. Oh, there's going to be some examples where both of us, I would say, were guilty. So we're going to run through those. We've got lots of speak pipe questions, technical, and don't read the comments, lots of our usual segments as well. But before we get started, guys, I just want to celebrate for a minute because this has been the biggest week I have ever had on YouTube.
Really?
Views,
Ever?
growth. Yeah, even looking at the old numbers for our viral Battle at F-Stop Ridge video, that one still took a little while to get up there. So yeah, biggest week I have ever had because we had 2 gigantic videos. And a few weeks ago, you might remember me complaining like, oh man, that Blair documentary is just kind of tanked. And that thing is blowing up as well right now. So yes, everybody, let's cheer for ourselves, pat ourselves on the back. We all deserve all the accolades before we talk about how we're really bad at our jobs through the rest of this episode. It's perfect.
All right.
We're going to humble ourselves after our glorious week. So I don't know. Let's get started with the show.
So having such a great week on YouTube and on the podcast is fantastic, but it would not be possible without our sponsor today, OM Systems. So they got a really exciting promotion. I mean, if your camera gear is getting old, maybe it's like heavy, it's not weather sealed, not rugged enough. Maybe you just want to upgrade to something a bit more capable. So there's a really nice trade-in program from OM System right now. This is exclusive. You get to trade up with their promotion. You got to hurry though, because it offer ends October 1st, which is actually coming up really soon here. So get on it right away. This is the last week for their trade and trade up promotion. Basically, you can trade in any qualified interchangeable lens camera. I'll give you guys some examples, and you get credit towards an existing camera upgrade. So, for example, you can get the incredible OM1. That's the one that I still use myself. I love it. With the 12-40 f2.8 Pro 2 lens kit, you're not only going to get a $200 instant rebate, but then on top of that, with this, you're going to get a $200 trade-in bonus coupon. Okay, so double the savings right now, plus you're still getting the trade-in value of the camera, right? So we're talking like $400 in that example, plus the trade-in value of your camera. Just for an example, like a GH5S, they would give you like around $536. A GH5 just shy of $400. An A7 II, even though it's an older camera, you'll get almost $300. So this is a crazy offer. They're shaving off hundreds of dollars off the price of this kit. October 1st, 2023. You gotta act fast. As usual, go to explore.omsystem.com/PetaPixel. That'll give you a lot of the details, more examples of other cameras, and it's just a great way to kickstart your journey with a new OM System camera.
All right. Thanks to OM System for sponsoring the podcast. Always appreciate you. Okay. You guys want to talk a little bit about the Plena? The Plena? The Plena. I think it's Plena, right? Is it Plena?
We still haven't figured that out. I want to hear
We heard it both
from,
ways.
Yeah.
I'm trying to go with the Latin.
I want a professor of Latin.
By the time this podcast is released, we will have been corrected. So that's good to know.
Yeah, there's no shortage of pedantic viewers in our comment section telling us how we should do things and how we should say them and how we should pronounce them.
So,
Chris, I didn't get to take a single picture with this lens.
I realized I didn't even
you.
touch it. I didn't even touch the lens.
I didn't let you guys touch it. You touched it.
Didn't touch it.
You touched it.
No.
Jordan and I shared a room. I know he touched it.
No, it wasn't with us in the room. And
what? Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
I don't like the implication.
Yeah, we had it for a limited time, pretty limited time. So yeah, no, Chris, you are the only one who laid hands upon it, and definitely the only one who took pictures. What are your thoughts? Yeah, okay. You, like compared to the other 135s that are out there, how's Nikon competing?
Yeah, so I guess here's the thing. I mean, everybody makes a good 135. I mean, I like the Sony and the Canon. They're great lenses. It's a fun focal length to use. What's interesting here is it's kind of like the Noct. Nikon made the Noct 58 mil f.95.
This is way more practical than the Noct.
Yes,
okay?
totally.
Let's not lump those two.
No,
I think when people saw the yellow scripting, they're like, "Oh God, does it not have autofocus?"
Yes.
Is it a 20 millimeter f.9? What is this monstrosity?
No, but this is my point. The Noct wasn't practical, but it was basically a showcase in engineering possibilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the Plena is that way as well. Like, so many lenses are made and designed to have compromises and work for a good budget and work for a good, outcome with any downsides being covered by the camera's digital processing. Whereas this lens is like an old school optical lens where they're just like, it reminded me a lot of like a Zeiss Otis or something like that, where they're just like, or the early Sigma Arts, where they're just like, let's just engineer this optically. And so I think that's really cool to see Nikon making a lens. It's just like another showcase for their optical performance and their capabilities. And they pulled it off because the bokeh is gorgeous, like beautiful soft bokeh. The transitions, not just highlights, but transitions look really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously it's sharp. I mean, even though this is a pre-production lens and we can't really test it fully, you can tell. I mean, you can tell. You look at the files, you're like, oh yeah, that's a sharp lens. That's a great lens. So I think
I'm just curious what Jared's mom said about the files.
Yeah, Jaron, how did your mom feel about the photos that we took of you?
So, I can bring up the text because you emailed them to me and then I sent them to my mother in a reasonable resolution. I didn't send her full res because she doesn't need it. She said something about her lovely son. I text my mother too much. I actually can't find it. But yeah, she was very pleased. She's so happy that you took pictures of me because I don't actually get pictures of me taken very often.
Right.
I don't like being in front of the camera. And
you
did
bad because you got a great
job.
smile. You got a great smile. You should
thank
be in
you.
front of the camera more often. I don't like being in front of the camera.
My mother paid a lot of money to have braces put on my teeth when I was little
Well,
because I had very bad teeth as a child, and I
hope she feels like finally her investment
has
come to fruition.
Well, thank you for the lovely portraits.
Hey,
I think I might actually update my LinkedIn for the first time in a long time. So
thank you, Nikon.
So one thing I do want to touch on, I mean, you talked about them just like doing no compromises, anything like that. But what's surprising is the weight and price is competitive with the other options out there, which really surprised me. When I saw that little badge, I was like, oh man, this is going to be like twice the weight of the Sony or whatever.
It is slightly heavier, right? But not a ton.
Slightly,
like 50
it's like
grams?
50 grams. Yeah. Totally manageable difference there. And yeah, performance looks excellent. I found it really interesting. I mean, we glaze over vignetting so much in lenses because it is a really easy thing to fix in post. But I mean, when you're fixing it in post, you are introducing noise into the corners. It's true.
Yeah.
And they're just like, no, there's like no optical vignetting. And we're like, cool, let us process the raw files. And they said no. So we're going to take Nikon at their word.
I didn't see much
I think
vignetting.
it's interesting.
Yeah.
Very rarely do we see lens manufacturers emphasize a lack of vignetting.
Yeah. No, it looks very good. I mean, the other thing I think to point out too is this is Jordan's favorite focal length. I mean, he loves these lenses. As he said, it is far more useful in my opinion, than a fast 58, right? Like this is something that you can get beautiful portraits with, commercial work, that kind of stuff. It's not crazy expensive, but even more important, and I'm going to repeat this again, because I know a lot of our viewers are used to our measuring system. We use the Noct as a 2 kilogram measurement. But
this
now
is
we
most
have
important.
Yeah, this is by far the most important thing. So now we got the Plena, another named Nikon lens, and it's basically a kilogram. So be prepared, viewers and listeners, for going forward. We are going to be giving lens weights in terms of Plenas and Nocts.
We'll see how long before I start editing one of those two out of the episodes. It's a really simple cut for me.
No, and I'll be damned if we don't make this universal system of measurement, and we need your help to do that. And all the other manufacturers should make named lenses because they're missing out. They're missing out on free press.
Before we move on to talk about the next news item, I do want to bring it up. I want to ask you guys your thoughts. What did you think of Sushi Heaven?
Oh, it's great.
It's aptly named.
Yes.
Yeah, that bluefin tuna I had. Apologies to
the
tuna
environment.
fish everywhere,
Yeah.
but oh my god, it was like buttery and perfect. It was wonderful. Yeah.
So
it was very good.
Sushi Heaven is, for anyone listening who lives near the area, Monterey or Salinas or Santa Cruz, it's in Carmel by the Sea, and it's off the main Carmel drag. So you actually have to kind of know where you're going to find it. I've been going there since I was in like junior high with my parents. It was just a place that we would go, and Yeah,
Yeah.
it's I think right now better than it has ever been. So highly recommended if you're in Carmel by the Sea at any point. Go to Sushi Heaven.
Jaron used to stuff his braces with, you know,
I did.
tempura batter and glutinous rice at Sushi Heaven as a kid. So
The owner and he's there on weekends. You'll probably run into him. His name is Sun. Tell him that Jaron sent you, and he'll look at you blankly, but you should tell him anyway. All right.
Your orthodontist was like, "Did you go to Sushi Heaven again this week? This is bent.
cleaning rice out of these braces drive me crazy. Yeah.
Get the water pick."
Okay. All right. So let's talk about something that I got the pleasure of testing this week. CF Express 4.0 readers. So because for anyone who didn't notice, there was a new specification come out for CF Express that will make the cards significantly faster. But that doesn't really matter because no cameras can use that enhanced speed. The only thing that would really affect it is connecting to a computer. We don't know when we're going to get a camera that's CF Express 4.0 capable. But what I found out is I took one of the new readers, which uses the USB 4 specification, which most Macs have now. They've been using it for a while. And that allowed me to actually get faster speeds out of current CF Express cards when connected to a computer, like significantly faster, like 700 megabits per second faster. So like, I think that this makes a strong case, especially if you've already bought CF Express cards. And let's say you get a new camera at some point and it needs CF Express 4, and these ones aren't. These cards are still valuable. If you buy a $100 reader, you now have basically a wallet of SSD storage.
I need one.
And I think that is hugely valuable. Although some people will complain, well, what about the reliability? I don't know. I've never had a problem with reliability on CF Express. Have you, Jordan?
I've actually screwed up before on a shoot and had to edit a project on a CF Express with the older protocol and found it totally manageable working with 4K 24p multiple timeline footage. How well is this going to perform with the 8K video that we did recently? That will be a fun test for it.
Theoretically, it should be able to handle 8K 60 at ProRes 422 HQ.
There you go.
It can even handle 12K 24 at ProRes 422 HQ. It can't do 12K 60 at ProRes 422 HQ.
Well, then throw it in the trash.
Yeah, exactly.
If it can't do 12K at 60, then it's worthless.
I'm about to buy a 42-inch 12K TV for no reason, and I need to see every
42
pixel.
Can you tell me a single person who doesn't own a Blackmagic 12K camera? I defy you to name one person.
Oh, yeah. No, I use it for soccer games.
Anyway, I think this is neat. I like being nerdy about storage and speeds and stuff like that. It's one of the few things.
You were so excited at the meeting the other day. We came in and we're like, why are you smiling? Because you're in a new house with a new studio?
No.
Oh, no, I'm getting very fast up and down.
That's right.
It's on these cards.
It's fascinating to me how fast things have gotten since I've been in this industry. Like we used to be, I was celebrating 90 megabits per second, and now we're at 2,000. So like I'm pleased.
I'm going to call you Jaron the Benchmark Schneider from now on. That's your new name.
Yeah? Oh,
Yeah,
that's not
the
going to take off.
Oh, okay.
I want to streamline it and just call him Bench.
Yeah. Or you could go around like with other tech guys and just be like, "Well, what do you benchmark, bro?"
Do we need that on a shirt? Okay. I wanted to get you guys' opinion on this one because I'm not sure exactly how to use it. Maybe you can tell me. TT Artisan announced a 500 millimeter f6.3 lens for all mirrorless mounts, manual focus only, $329.
So first off, I just want to jump in. Like, this is a brand that Jordan and I still haven't reviewed, and it's just because we're so busy. Like, there's so much stuff, right? We really have to. This might be the one. But this actually makes sense. You see a lot of like sort of affordable telephotos with ridiculously slow apertures. By that point, you're getting to diffraction. It's just garbage. But this is actually not bad. I mean, a 506.3.
Yeah.
Usable, absolutely, especially with modern cameras and their high ISOs. Obviously, you have an aperture ring. I can see it there, so you can change apertures. It's not like a fixed aperture, so it looks good. I'd use it. I'd try it.
Yeah, I mean, the real question there is, what are you using it
Yeah, that's
for?
what I want to know.
Yeah.
What are you shooting?
Yeah, like my classic example would be, bird on a tree. You're not catching bird in flight with this stuff, but if they're fairly static,
I could.
to get the point of view of a 500 mil lens for under $400, that's interesting for people who don't want to throw, thousands and thousands of dollars at a high-end autofocus lens. I mean, this might be an interesting compromise for them. It reminds me a lot of the Canon F11 lenses, which are also quite affordable, not as affordable as this. And it's like, there's a colossal compromise to get that at an affordable price. But if you've never experienced that perspective before, it might be worth it for you. If
private investigation on a budget.
Yes. Also.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, they've shown astro work on this, interestingly.
Yeah, moonshots and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, I don't know where these pictures came from, but I'm seeing straight up galaxies. I don't know how they did that. But
I mean, if you had it on a little, what's the word I'm looking for, Chris? The thing that rotates as the Earth rotates.
Yeah, the rotating thing for astro.
The rotate.
Yes.
You all know the word I'm looking for right now.
That's what it's called.
Equatorial mount. Then you could absolutely just do a very long exposure.
Do they sell those at the camera store?
They do.
They do actually.
Or did. Yeah.
I'm sensing a test is all I'm saying.
A star tracer, there's lots of different things, yeah. But I mean, what TT Artisan can do is make sharp optics. I mean, that much I know, right? Like I'm confident. It looks like it's pretty well built. I like the Leica-esque text on it, but I'm sure it'll be fairly sharp. And I'd play with that for sure.
Deal.
Yeah.
I will see if we can get you one, and we'll put it in the schedule for the winter when Techtober's over.
I mean, I remember I like those Canon 600, like the F11 and stuff like that, and this is brighter. So, airplane stuff I could see people digging. There are a lot of wildlife shots where you can focus quite, you don't need crazy fast autofocus. I bet some people find some uses for it.
For 10 years, I've been threatening to do a Rear Window parody with Chris, where he's wearing a cast and he spies on his neighbors as a murder occurs. And this would be the perfect lens for that. I mean, even a manual focus super telephoto. We couldn't ask for a better Jimmy Stewart lens than that. So
not for remaking.
Yeah,
not for remaking the movie. The key thing for spying on your neighbors. This is a great lens for spying on your neighbors. 100%.
I do not
100% is what
this.
Jordan is trying to get across.
Do not endorse stepping back from it. Jaron, disclaimer at the bottom of the screen.
You heard it all here, folks.
If Chris says Jordan endorses something, he does not actually endorse that with an asterisk. That would be great. Thank you.
Oh, man.
Okay. Well, that's the news. On to this lovely topic of
our
us
main story.
Screwing up.
I'm excited for it. I mean, I think it's nice to just...
You take us away, Jordan.
Yes.
All right. So we're going to go way back. We're going to do some camera store stuff, DP review, go back quite a ways. I am going to tell you about my most humiliating experience, which were you at the A6300 launch, Jaron? It was in
You're starting with
Miami. I'm starting with this one.
Oh, I believe I was at that.
Yeah.
Okay. So they took us to an excellent vegan restaurant before we went out for a photo shoot at a hotel. And it was a really cool idea. They were like, look, you're going to walk through the top floor of this hotel. Every room is going to be done up like a movie or television scene that took place in Miami.
I remember.
Like 70s style, 80s style, lots of Miami Vice kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I had recently gotten my gallbladder out before this trip, and the vegan restaurant food did not agree with me. So I'm having a tough time when we get there. So on the bus, I'm like, can you please get us to a washroom? Please get us to a washroom. We arrive there. They bring us up to the top floor. I'm like, can you, someone help me? This is crisis moment.
I vaguely remember you looking kind of sweaty and pallid.
I was absolutely.
I mean, I had to sit beside him on the bus, right? Like he was, and I felt
just holding my hand like I'm going into labor.
I felt genuine despair for Jordan. I was like, I think at the point I was like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. We're almost there. We're almost there. We're going to get off the bus. We're going to get to the bathroom.
But the greatest sitcom reveal is they're like, look, we found one for you on the top floor. I walk into this room, and first of all, it is filled with grips, gaffers, and models,
and all our fellow press
people. And the fun thing about the whole top floor of this hotel is it's this really modern, edgy hotel room where there's no walls. It's all glass from the bedroom to
The bathroom. The bathroom door is like right through the
Who
entrance.
wants this? Who is willing to pay a premium at a hotel for like, I definitely don't want walls.
It's super sexy to watch your spouse poop, I guess. Like it was so, I could not help myself but laugh because I go in there and it was like straight up Seinfeld. I was just like, are you kidding me? It's a glass door in a hallway that everybody's standing in, right, waiting to take shots of Miami Vice. Well, I mean, not only that, but even if it was completely blacked out like a reasonable bathroom should be, the sound alone would resonate through the entire old. I mean, it would have been.
And they open the door for me, and all these technicians are like, "Hey, we're not quite ready for you guys."
Yeah, and people are lining up with their cameras. Oh, dude, it would have been a great photo. But I think luckily the staff downstairs like let you use like
one cleaning lady is like, there's one in the basement, so I went to like a broom closet. It had been a bathroom repurposed as like a storage for chemicals.
Yeah.
And anyways, they saved me. We don't have to go into that part of the story, but yes, that reveal where I walked in and saw the all glass room was one of the most horrifying moments of my life.
That was hilarious and sad. I felt for you. Yeah. I mean, if we're starting with poop,
we don't have to keep going down.
No. If we're starting with poop, we were in Japan, which was an amazing experience. I mean, I've been there a few times, but we were in Japan. We got to go to Kyoto and see it, and we did all the classic stuff. I mean, it was great. But we're walking through the bamboo area. There's the famous bamboo forest shots that everybody gets, but in truth, it's like an alleyway. It's not a forest. It's just an alleyway in this very tight with like people's houses.
Like the Japanese suburbs.
Yeah, it's weird. But we're getting our shots and my stomach starts to not feel very good. But I'm okay. I usually have a pretty iron stomach. I tough it out. We go up the hill to this big park, beautiful. I mean, and I can't handle it. Now, every time we go to Japan, of course, we're lucky on press trips. They put us up in nice hotels. You get modern bathrooms, modern toilets that like spray your bum.
The most modern bathrooms.
The best, right? So that's all I'm used to. I've never used a traditional Japanese toilet.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Dude, that is... So I'm ready. It's going to happen. I'm not doing well and I can't hold. I'm like, okay. So I run to this bathroom and I'm like, I've never used one of these before.
Describe what you saw. Describe what the scene is.
It's like if you had a metal pipe, and you just scoop the top out of it and surround it with some tiles and you just squat over it and go for it, right?
Mm-hmm. It's a hole in the ground.
It's a hole in the ground. And this was going to be my first experience explosively. And so it was very, I wouldn't care about the hole in the ground. I mean, I get it. I'm Asian. I get it. But when you've got a hole in the ground and you're trying to keep your pants and your clothing from getting into said hole,
you're supposed to fully disrobe, as far as I understand it.
I don't know. Anyways, I mean, it was a shotgun blast on a ceramic wall, and it was great. So yeah, but. Jordan didn't have to hold my hand, and there was no glass around for people to watch me do it. So he wins.
So I was walking all around that park because we had to record A-roll. Dude. And I'm like, where is and then I'm like, well, what? No, it's great. He's wearing a lav. I'll just keep walking until like the sound kicks in.
Oh, that's right. I ran away from you
to turn your lav off, but it also meant I could not find because then you didn't turn it on afterwards. So I was hunting around this park for like half an hour. I assumed you were abducted or something like that. Just absolute train wreck of an afternoon.
I did have the foresight to turn off the lav because
I was actually hoping you didn't because the story would have gotten a whole lot better.
Jordan would have recorded it and it would have been terrible.
Well, okay, so you guys wanted me to tell a specific story, but before I do that, because we're on this particular train of thought, I don't know if you were on the bus with me when this happened, but I believe it was Condo a couple of years ago, Santa Barbara.
Okay, we were there, yeah.
Yep.
We were going in between locations, and recently, because we've traveled together, you guys recognize that my body processes liquid very fast. Like,
I think it's one of your best attributes.
Yeah. So it's not like I've had people tell me, it's like, you should get that checked out if you have to go to the bathroom that often. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I'm not just getting like a little bit when I go pee after I've had like liquid. No, that is a full on 100% full bladder pee.
Our unsubscriptions are just going through the roof.
I have to go very soon after consuming liquid. Anyway, we did something. I think we must have had a lunch or whatever. And we were on the bus on the freeway headed to a location. And we've only been in the bus for like 10 minutes. And I went before we got on the bus. Didn't matter. Refilled. Had to go. And I walked to the front of the bus and I was just like, so how long is it going to be until we're where we're going? And they're like, I don't know, another 30, 40 minutes. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to need you to find me a place to go to the bathroom. And they're like, what? Well, like when? I'm like, no, right now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how badly do you have to go? And 10 being go. I'm like, I'm at a 9. So they actually had to stop and detour this bus to a casino that was just happened to be out there.
Oh.
And I had to run into the casino and then run back out.
They were very quiet about that. Yes, they were very quiet about that.
Wait, were you just like, why are we at this casino parking
lot?
lot?
Yeah, because it's not like, to the bus driver's credit, he wasn't like, oh, this guy's got to pee, we're going to pull the bus over.
Everyone, the reason you're late is Jaron right here.
Yeah,
ostracize him.
Well, I'm sure there was a conversation with the Sony reps, and they're like, "Oh, okay, well, yeah, okay, pull over." I don't know, but Jaron, it's charming driving with Jaron. He has like locations plotted out where he can quietly pee. It's amazing. If this was like if you got lost in the desert, you'd 6 hours, you're done. Like they're just like, no, it's like we found a desiccated corpse,
right? Because I don't hold on to liquid.
Yeah, like the human body shouldn't be able to lose water that quick. Yeah.
Do we want to move off this particular topic?
Yeah, okay, let's,
Well, okay, so you guys, if
the biggest disaster in our career is this opening for this show.
It's just, apparently it's just bodily fluids. I'll do one that's not that. Unless you were ready, Jordan. Do you ready to go with yours that's not?
No, I want yours. I love this story. So it's like 6 acts.
This just happened. And this is actually relevant because the title of this is making the YouTube show. So I was with these two in California recently for not only the Plena, but also for iPhone. And it's hard to describe how frenetic being at Apple Park is on one of these things. They are very strict on time. If you have to be somewhere, they want you there early for it. And then you miss something, it's gone. So we were rushing to do almost all of our coverage. There are things we wish we had gotten that we didn't. But through this, I, of course, rented a car for us because, we're staying locally and, we need to drive around and do stuff. Well, at the end of the day, after we had been all across this campus, like both ends of it, they had to golf cart us around in order to get to certain places.
Kilometers. This thing is enormous. You have no idea how big Apple Park is.
We had just emerged from the podcast room. That was at the end of the day. So we were done around 4:30, 4:45. We get to the exit and I'm like, cool, let's go get the car. I can't find the keys. Just nowhere on my person.
Every pocket. Yeah.
Searched every pocket in my bag, searched every pocket in every pocket on my body. I had a sweatshirt, searched every bit of that. Chris, who had never touched the keys, started searching himself for some reason. I don't know. You never know. Maybe I put them on him. But
I'm contributing.
So like the only good thing about this is that Apple does have a space set aside for people who are there for the event to sit and work. So Jordan was able to cut while I had to basically call the rental agency and tell them, I lost the keys. I don't know what step 2 is here at this point. They ended up sending by the end of the night, and I would get text messages about it because they don't have extra keys for security reasons. If the keys are gone, they have to tow the car. So the issue with that being, though, is that we were parked in the parking structure, and that's underground, 2 levels. Those trucks that they wanted to use, where it's not a low jack. They needed a low jack. They were using a flatbeds, basically. Didn't fit. Yeah. You can't fit that in there. And no matter how many times I told them that they needed a low jack, they kept sending flatbeds.
Yeah, so weird. Like a traditional tow truck would have done it.
Yeah,
like,
you can. You can
so
do it.
Strange.
And what's weird is the first guy that I talked to, the first tow truck driver, I described the situation. I was like, oh yeah, I was moving cars around in there a few weeks ago. You need a low jack. I'm like, that's correct. And then he just never showed up with one. And I think they just kept passing the buck to a different tow company.
But you got called by like 5 different drivers. They're
by
like,
the end of the night.
They're like, hey bud, this thing's in a park. I can't get the truck. And I'm like, yeah, I told the last 5 guys that.
Yeah,
so.
This should be in the notes by now. By the end of the night, they had sent 8 different trucks to try and get that thing out of there. Eventually, it must have worked because they stopped calling me. But we had to get picked up by an Uber, taken back to the rental agency to get a new car in order so that I could take them to dinner because at this point it was getting kind of late. But
well, I have a hard drive dangling like an appendage behind me as I try to cut this because we got that video out late, unfortunately, because we're dealing with all this while I'm trying to edit. And, on the day of announcement, everybody gets their hands on. I don't think I got mine up until like 11 o'clock midnight that night. So, yeah, it was, I was stressy. Jaron was stressy. Chris was peppy.
I was fine.
Yeah, it was a rough night.
Well, that wasn't the end of it.
Yeah. That's, like I said, 6 acts.
The end of it was, by the time I took us all to the airport the next day to go home, we had gone our separate ways. We'd been hanging out in the airport lounge, and you went towards Delta, and I went towards Alaska. And I went through my bag to get my earbuds, and lo and behold, found the keys.
What'd you do with those keys, Jaron?
You just sent us a picture.
I gave them to the Alaska terminal and said, I don't know how to handle this. Here.
You mean you got through airport security and you still didn't find these keys, right? Like, I mean...
But I found them when I wasn't looking for them. And what did I say? When I couldn't find those keys the first time, I said, I will find them when I've exhausted all other options
Always
and I no longer need this key.
Now, it's not just losing your keys. I mean, Jordan and I, it's cold up here in Canada. Hey, Jordan. And the one nice thing about... Yeah, the one nice thing about the wintertime is, of course, it gets dark quicker. We had to go do some astrophotography. So there's a rock. It's a giant glacial erratic nearby. Now, I say nearby, but we're talking like 45-minute drive. So we drive out into the winter. We get all the shots. Obviously, the vehicle's working great to that point. And we get our shots. We shoot our talking points. We're very cold. It's like 11 at night, 11:30, and we get back to the truck, and what happens?
So first things first, the electronic unlock, the little fobby thing, is not working for us. So we're standing there like shivering. And it's like, I don't know, this was a used vehicle that we bought. So I'm just like, there's got to be some way there's like a mechanical key in there. And yeah, you can like pop the top open and there's supposed to be a little metal. We have never tested this and there isn't one in there. So we are now... At, what would you say, Chris? 1:30 in the morning, probably?
Yeah, I mean, because we're calling wives and stuff. I mean, kids are in bed. You can't just be like, oh, I'm going to wake up the kids, throw them in the car and come get you guys, right? Like, it's a very big hassle. So, and drive like an hour there and an hour back, right? Like, it's just not feasible. So, yeah, we called the taxi. That was expensive.
I mean, the thing that's crazy, too, is we were like, we're going to go get a few Astro shots, jump back in the toasty car, go home and have a nice sleep. We are not dressed at all for this.
No.
We're wearing like, enough to go out for 10 minutes and get a few shots out at night.
Yeah, not an hour and a half.
I don't know if our listeners like watch The Sopranos, but there's a famous episode where they're freezing to death because they get lost in the woods trying to find a Russian guy. And that was exactly how it felt, minus the Russian guy. It's just the two of us like, this is how I die. This is the worst. This sucks.
When was this and for what video?
This was the Sigma, I want to say 14. Does that sound right,
Yeah,
Chris?
it was an ultra-wide fast lens. Yeah.
Wait, for PetaPixel?
Oh, no. So this would be... pre-PetaPixel. Oh,
Yes.
It's the 20mm 1.4 Sigma. That's what it is.
Sigma.
Oh,
the
that was a
last
while ago.
Astro lens before. Yeah.
Okay.
It was a while ago.
back.
No, because it was wintertime, right? I mean, we started in the spring with you guys, so it was wintertime.
I don't know how the weather in Canada works. It could be cold there in the summer.
Cold. I mean, we survived.
Winter.
Taxi cab guy got us. It's like, hey, can we get a taxi cab at 1 a.m. to go
To a
meet us out
different
by a
city?
giant rock? Yeah, and then drives to Calgary. Yeah, he was not happy, but hey, he got paid. But yeah, it's keys, man, keys. I know everybody always wants to go on like, we do these things like, well, what about camera gear that you've broken? But it spans so much more than just camera gear, right, Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, the camera gear, we've definitely had some. But I want to touch on like when you're just letting down a colossal number of people. This is one of my favorites. We did this series, Wooden Nickels, where we recreate movie scenes. One of my favorite things we've done, and we get like our friends DDG, who are a professional high-end film crew. Like they've done feature films, they do all kinds of commercial work, very professional.
Just to paint a picture, like normally when we do our Wooden Nickels, it's like whoever couple people we can get to help us out for free, like no makeup, no costumes, like we do it all ourselves. It's like a high school thing, right? This was, just to give context to the viewers, the first time that we had full production, so tons of crew, all professional staff, right? I mean, they have expectations for how this should all go. And go, Jordan.
Okay, so we get access to this barber shop. We're recreating the Goodfellas scene with Joe Pesci doing the like, "What am I funny?"
Yeah.
Which if you haven't
like
seen
a
it, you
clown.
should totally check it out. Chris does a
Fantastic.
great, Chris does a great Pesci. So we're setting that all up, and it takes place in a smoky bar. And they're like, "Oh, we've got this new type of fogging thing. It's so great; it fills the place instantly. It's just water vapor, no big thing, but it's going to make the lighting look beautiful."
And it did. It looked great.
It looked fantastic. And we're shooting, and it's this really interesting building where it's a whole bunch of office buildings all tied together on top of this bar. And we're in the bottom of the bar shooting this scene. So they pull this out, and as soon as we start fogging it, the smoke alarm goes off. But not just for the basement of this bar, with all of our crew who are like sacrificed. Like, no one's getting paid on this. We're all doing it because we're like, this will be fun, and have like a bunch of the best professionals in Calgary. Not only those, and the extras, mind you. We evacuate all of the office buildings. This is like a block. Like it's a U-shaped building, an entire block along 3 sides. All of these people are out on the street.
Yeah, 2 fire trucks show up, like firemen coming in. Oh man, it was.
And they have to go like double check everything. And we're talking to them like, we just had, it's like water vapor, like send everyone back in. It's no big deal here. And they're like, oh yeah, we remember just installing this. It's a new type of thing. It's a visual smoke detector. So if it sees anything that looks like haziness in the atmosphere, it'll trigger this. So no matter what we were using down there, if you set it off, it would. Yeah.
At least no sprinklers came on. That would have been. Then that would have been
with all the camera equipment that we had in there.
Boy, that would have been bad.
But that was.
We were outside for an hour, and I love. There's pictures. We had an on-set photographer, even who's a very good photographer, of us like talking to the firefighters, and us just making like face, and them being like and index finger out, like, no, you don't use a fogger in a visual smoke alarm film.
It's one thing when your staff are getting paid, right? But when everybody's doing this pro bono just like to have fun, that's tough because now you're like wasting their time, right? I mean, it sucked. It sucked. But the shoot turned out great. It was a great shoot. But yeah,
go watch it to thank those kind people for their time.
That was about it. I want to talk about Jordan. I mean, we talked about his poop. Let's talk about how else other disasters that I get to witness. So one that I got to witness. So let's go back to Japan, Jordan. So
okay.
I love Japan for many reasons. It's an amazing country to visit. But one of the best things I love about Japan is being 5'8", I'm tall there. And this is not an experience I ever get to have, right? Like, I can't even describe it. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Nice to see over the heads there. Like, wow, this is what it's like to be tall.
Yeah.
Yes, it's great. But the whole structure of that country is scaled down for a smaller height. Jordan there is a giant, right? I mean, he's like a circus kind
I
of
look like
thing.
a cartoon character. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I should have chains behind me and a bunch of tiny people like, don't let him get too far away.
Yeah. And they're dragging him on the beach and tying him down with ropes. So, yeah. So we go to this beautiful ryokan, like amazing hot springs. We have great food.
Hundreds of years old when people were even shorter.
Yeah. And of course, Jordan intimately discovered the beauty of Japan's woodworking technology, building structures just with dovetail joints, solid, beautiful, sharp cornered beams.
You just got it right up in you like see them eye level.
Constant. Like and their solution was like I smack myself and everyone working there is like, oh no. Here, that looks really painful. More sake? And I'm like, yes, that will help with the pain, which makes me whack my head on more stuff as I'm
He
going
went
in.
square into this beam. It was probably 6 feet high, so it cut him like right across his eyebrows.
Perfect.
Like, right above. I mean, and like Jordan at the best of times, even in the safest place, we went to a Korean restaurant yesterday and he ran into a light fixture twice, getting up from the table.
That is accurate. Okay.
and as I recall, actually, that was made of like sharp angular wood as well. So he's got an affinity for sharp wood.
I'm going to send this to you, Jaron. I sent a picture to my wife of what my forehead looked like when I went to bed that night.
Oh yeah, and happily we'll share that with everyone.
Yeah, we'll have it.
Yeah,
here.
you can chuck it up right here in the pod. I'll get you that.
Dude, the whole room shook when you ran your head into that. It was
all these poor these do you call them geisha? Like the girls who are serving us there are just
They're
like,
not
oh
geishas.
no, not
No.
again.
But
I don't know what you call them. Yes,
yeah.
the lovely women who were entertaining us and feeding us while we were there.
I could easily go under these bars. It was great. I loved it. No, I had a great experience height wise. Jordan had a bit of a tough time there.
On a similar, I was a different trip to Japan because we do want to touch on some gear that has a tough go while we're on press trips. They took us to the top of the Tokyo Tree, which is a very tall tower. Yeah, the Sky Tree. It's one of the tallest buildings in the world, with all of the engineers of the GFX 100. So this is going back a little ways. At the time, it's like an $11,000 camera.
Yeah.
Brand new. There's only a few samples out there. And Chris and I are very much like, oh, we're going to do our classic thing. I'm going to film Chris on the camera. He's going to present. They're like, oh, okay, just be very careful with it. They're all with us. And that camera, I don't know if you remember it, Jaron, was so big. It had like the built-in battery grip.
Oh, yeah.
Very heavy. I had a standard zoom, which was probably like a Noct as well on the front of it. And I always shoot with a monopod. So I'm just got it over my shoulder and I carry it. You've seen me do this, I'm sure, Jaron and Chris. That's how I walk around, just with the monopod over my shoulder. This
like
camera's so heavy, it shears the quarter 20 off of not of the camera quick release plate, of the 3/8 thread that you attach the video head to. So a big video head with the camera, with the lens. I'm just walking with it over my shoulder and just hear like, kabang. When I'm walking on, it's like reinforced glass at the bottom of this. It's one of those things where you're walking with the building behind you. And the people on that top floor are like Fuji executives, a couple tourists, and us. And everybody is just silent for like 5 seconds.
And classic,
of course, they're so gracious. They're like,
classic Japanese fashion, like, don't worry, it's okay. Meanwhile, they're like, oh man, like, what did you just do to our beautiful equipment that we worked and designed personally?
Did you damage it?
The lens mount is like in the shape of like the letter C, basically.
So that was done. That camera's toast.
Camera and lens were done. Yes.
Yeah. And they got me a replacement. They were wonderful about it. But I'm sure they were like texting each other like, we heard from Panasonic when they were in the Ryokan with Chris and Jordan, don't give this guy expensive equipment. He's very clumsy. And they gave it to me anyways. And yeah, I mean, that was probably $15,000 US that hit the floor of the Tokyo Sky Tree.
Yeah. Imagine being the repair person who had to look at this, like the pieces of their broken dreams.
That was the topper. Like, we've actually been very good with gear. We haven't damaged too much stuff. The third video we ever made together, Jordan, I did damage the Store's 24-70 f2.8. That was kind of a big deal. But, for the most part, we've been pretty good with equipment, but that topped it. That was
that is the most expensive single mistake that we've made.
That was,
I think. This wasn't actually while we were shooting together, but I just want to throw an aside. You did once put an Olympus EM 1 Mark III in the wheel well of your truck for storage.
Because that sounded
and then forgot about it.
That sounded like a good idea, but we've talked about that on a podcast. That was actually a success story, right? Because
you drove over it.
The OM1, sorry, it was EM1 Mark III, and or an EM1X. I don't remember. It was a great camera. EM1 III. And I had the Leica 12-60 on there, which I love that lens. That was my favorite kit lens, the f2.8-4. Oh, so good. But anyways, the lens got destroyed, the mount sheared off, but the camera was fine, and it works to this day. It's great. So it was a testament to Olympus, now OM system cameras, and how rugged they are. But I won't put cameras on wheel wells of truck tires very often anymore.
This is how we learn lessons.
Yes.
Jaron, you used to run a production company. Do you have one story unrelated to shooting a YouTube or anything like that where a shoot has gone horribly off the rails from your pre-us life?
I may have mentioned this before, but the only thing I can really think of where I really screwed up was we were shooting the Sally Ride. It's a research vessel. That was coming down from Seattle to San Francisco, and then would go from San Francisco to San Diego, where it would be at Scripps. And that's where it would be based out of, whatever. So this was like its maiden voyage. We were tasked with capturing it coming into San Francisco from the ground and from the air. And at the time, as I've mentioned in the past. It's similar to the era of the black balls on the bottom of the camera that I used to hold in helicopters. I was not in a helicopter this time.
Put that photo up again.
Okay. Yeah, just so people understand the context that are listening of what that is.
Yes, it's a gyro. Anyway, I was on the
gyro.
ground this time. I was manning our on-the-ground cameras, but I sent my friend Toby Harriman into a helicopter with an 1DX. And the most recent final 1DX. I can never remember if it was the 3 or the 4. I think it was the 3.
1DX3, yeah.
Yeah, shoots 4K at 60, I believe, to CFast. And which, I loved CFast at the time. Now it's a defunct format. He got all the footage, looked fantastic. The client was like, we need to see that right away. And I'm like, I don't have a CFast reader in the field. Nobody does that. No one
ever did.
Yeah. So like, whatever. You can plug the camera in to a computer with USB and you should be able to read the footage. The second we did that, corrupted the card completely. It's the only one. There's no backup for this. That was it. It was just in there. That was done. Gone.
Oh, my nightmare.
This is before ProGrade Digital was founded. So the people who founded ProGrade are from Lexar. Yeah. The former Lexar. Now Lexar is out of China. Micron company. I called them like, guys, I need you. We need to be able to get something off this card. Do you have any recovery software? They sent us some. I managed to recover a couple videos, just enough to squeak by for the project. But then I had to mail them the CFast card and be like, please do magic surgery. No, card was forever gone. Footage destroyed. There's some shots that we got that we were really happy with that we'll never see again. That was horrible. Now we still completed the project, but
oh man, or even just like accidentally formatting a card and then being like,
I've definitely done that. Definitely, done that.
It doesn't necessarily wipe your shots, but you start taking more pictures on it, and now you've lost a whole bunch of data.
The second you start to shoot more on a formatted card is when it's truly your dice roll. I've definitely done that.
I think we all have. Yeah.
And then you just go reshoot, basically, if you can. Mostly, so this is one of the few times where I wasn't shooting scripted stuff, where we had like sets and whatnot, and there were like people that we could get back in there and shoot again. This Sally Ride was not coming back into the bay that way ever again. So I was gone. Anyway.
I mean, it's a good argument for backup card, like dual card recording. Yeah. If it's something I'm never going to be able to shoot again, like the entire Blair documentary was shot to redundant cards. Yeah. Top to bottom for that exact reason. If you can't repeat it, then it's nice to have that safety net.
Yeah, I don't remember if you could put 2 CFasts in the 1DX.
It didn't have. It had one SD and one CFast.
And we were shooting at 4K 60 in the highest resolution or highest encode. Yeah, it was not possible. The SD wasn't going to be able to handle it. We could only.
You could get a proxy on there probably. So.
Oh man, so many disasters. I mean, like we've hurt ourselves. Jordan slipped on sheer ice. I stepped on that rebar. That was fun and stuff. But I'm sure our viewers will have lots of stories they want to share.
I fell out of the van in Yellowstone because someone armor-alled the footstep.
Oh
we hadn't even started yet. I stepped on it, immediately fell onto rocks. But
the van looked great.
Yeah, it looked
the van looked really
shiny.
Nice.
Very shiny van. Anyway, there we go. Those are the ones that we can remember, I guess,
I'm sure you guys have comments as well about stories you've had. We'd love to hear those. So definitely leave those down below as well. But let's move on. What have you guys been up to?
Oh, I guess I can go.
Yeah.
For those watching, I have. If you
studio looks nice.
If you look carefully, it's not done yet. I still have more lights to put up in the cases. But if you look, see if I can point to it. Yeah, there we go. See this right here? You can tell this is a Windows machine. There's the taskbar. This is my PC. I have been playing Starfield on it, and I am very much enjoying it.
You are, hey? Because we had a conversation about they were talking about the reviews that they're giving the 10 out of 10s and 9.5 out of 10s, that went to the reviewers, and then people who wanted to do a real review, they wouldn't give them copies yet until the actual embargo date came out, and those reviews are 4 or 5 out of 10. So how have you been finding it?
There are some things that I wish were less Bethesda-y, as I would like to say. The inventory management of this game is terrible. It just really sucks to your character becomes over encumbered almost immediately. And in a game where you're trying to find and pick stuff up constantly so that you have money, and also no vendor has any money. So trying to sell anything, you can sell 2 things and it's they're out of money.
So it's not fun. It's just frustrating.
That's frustrating. The ship combat is a little wonky, but it's probably realistic because you're fighting in full dimensions, so there's no up or down. It's just everything. And the fact that there's no maps, there's just no maps, no mini maps anywhere. You can't tell where you're supposed to be going sometimes, and the game is very fast travel focused. I think because of it. So like, if you can't find something, just fast travel to it. And, you
Weird.
Get there. Yeah, but otherwise, it is fun. I'm having a great time. Like the combat is really fun. I'm enjoying the story, the graphics. I'm running it on all max settings. I'm getting like 60 frames a second in 4K on this bad boy. I want more, but I'll settle for 60.
I'll pass this week. I got nothing.
Nothing. We didn't. Yeah, it's been a busy week. Lots of articles and stuff. So I haven't really been doing anything either. But I was curious to know how the viewers got into photography. This is the joy of photography. This is actually how I got into photography. I mean, truthfully, I think I showed the Nikon FE before on the show. Seeing that in a showcase in a small photo store here in Calgary, that's really what got me. I was like, that's a sexy thing. I want to try that. But this was the book that taught me photography.
He's pointing at 2 books right now for those only listening.
I got the sequence. So I got More Joy of Photography, and then The Joy of Photography was the first one. Killer book. I'm curious how people learn now, right? I mean, I've taught students photography. That's definitely one vector into it.
The answer is TikTok.
Obviously. TikTok, right? Like, so yeah, I'm curious to see what stories have, how people got started. Not maybe just what inspired you, but also like, how did you actually learn everything or are learning everything?
So
now?
Tell us in the comments. We'll go over some next week, perhaps, if we see answers to that. Like, how did you learn that? Chris wants to know. Tell him.
I want to know. But this is a great book. Joy of Photography. And it's got exposés in there of like Ernst Haas and Gordon Parks. Man, Gordon Parks could shoot.
Gordon Parks rules.
Like, wow. Like some amazing photos back then. And it is fascinating, just like objectively how bad the image quality is when we look at technical stuff, but how unimportant that is to the actual emotive qualities and way of connecting with people through the photograph.
And that is important because it is very easy to get lost in the weeds on the technical. Totally. So easy. And that's especially what happens all the time now. Yeah.
Cool. I got a whole bunch of old Photo Life magazines from the 70s and 80s. My father-in-law passed those on to us. And it's great because you can just flip through month to month and all of these like cover photos on a photography magazine. Nowadays, I'd be like, oh, delete. No, unacceptable. Like it's crazy how much, the standards of that have changed.
Don't you still have those?
That's the downstairs bathroom.
Yeah,
I don't want to keep bringing it back to bathrooms, but that's the real theme of this.
You should go old school. Take those Photo Lives, put them in like nondescript cardboard boxes, and leave them out by the train tracks, right? And then like teenagers will go find and be like, oh, we just found adult magazines. Like that's so analog, and then they'll be like inspired by the Photo Life, and then they'll look at all these. I'm going to become a photographer. You could do.
Who knew that the Pentax MX had a 160th sync speed? That's pretty great snappy. Camera. These teenagers will say.
You could do a great service to the photographic community by leaving these out for kids to find.
Well, speaking of sync speed, not really. I'm not going to talk about sync speed. I was just moving us on to tech support.
Tech support?
Yeah. So we've got a few questions here that we're going to answer. The ones for tech support are all written, so no speak pipe here. We'll get to those in the Never Read the Comments. But the first one is from Lufkosuna10 on Spotify. I apologize for taking so long to get to this one. Spotify does a terrible job of telling me when someone's commented. This was a couple weeks ago, but they asked, was wondering if any of you have done the switch from Premiere to DaVinci Resolve. Why or why not? Any thoughts? I know Jordan doesn't use Premiere, so you could change that to Final Cut.
I did do that. So when I was a Final Cut 7 editor, everybody, if you're older, remembers when they abandoned 7 with no backwards compatibility, brought out Final Cut X. And had completely changed the interface and everything like that.
I remember
Adobe
in college,
Premiere,
people were really complaining about it.
Jordan doesn't like change.
It
was just poorly supported. There's just no features in it.
Yeah,
and there was no support for us, like to migrate older projects or something. Which there was actually built into Premiere already because Final Cut was the most popular an LE, non-linear editor at the time. So there was already a good infrastructure for people moving from Final Cut to Premiere. So I did go over to Premiere for about a year and a half, I believe,
I remember
right
that,
when we started Camera Store TV.
And you hated it
was in
because
the
you don't like
process of
change.
switching.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy the switch, but I was okay with it. It was constantly crashing, driving me absolutely crazy. And then eventually I had, I believe, 2 weeks off, like took vacation time and started cutting episodes on Final Cut X, and starting with a clean break. I wasn't worried about old projects. I was able to learn it. And I still find like it edits the way my brain works. I'm much more efficient working that way, even though performance is very similar in Premiere and Resolve now. That's
so
why
you're
I work
not
on
switching
that.
to Resolve because you're very comfortable in Final Cut. Is that basically the answer here?
Yeah, I can chop really quick. And there are some cameras where the raw support is just in DaVinci, and I'm very comfortable cutting in DaVinci at this point, but it's still, I'm slower. So that's why I'm still there. But if I had to choose between the two, the color grading tools are still just worlds better on DaVinci, and the rest of the interface is quite similar between Premiere and DaVinci. So I would go that route. But I'm curious, Jaron, you still cut on Premiere.
I do.
Have you done much editing in DaVinci? How
Never.
do you find the comparison?
Well, that's not
funny.
true. I opened DaVinci Resolve back when the original Blackmagic cinema camera came out, because and that version of Resolve was awful. Unusable, totally unusable.
Before the editing tools had any.
It didn't make any sense to me. I opened that and I was like, this is like opening After Effects, and I just closed it. Like, I'm not learning this. I have work to do. So basically the reason, so this is a tough question to ask someone who's constantly working. So like Jordan and I, if we're constantly cutting, we do not have time to sit there and learn a new system.
Right.
It's very time consuming to do that, and we're giving something up to do it. There has to be a real compelling reason, for me at least, to move to a different editor. And Jordan brings up a good point. Premiere would crash a lot. It doesn't crash for me anymore at all.
It seems like it's much more stable. I'm hearing that a lot.
Never had a Premiere crash since I've been on an Apple Silicon machine. And so like I'm cutting very quickly. I cut this podcast the same day that we record it. And my goal is to get it in and out as soon as possible. And I'm not going to futz around with it. I don't have the time. So that's why I have not tried DaVinci Resolve.
I love
really
DaVinci Resolve.
Chris uses it.
I edit too, everybody, like trying to leave me out of the conversation. Gee,
No one tried to.
Straight up, I
Your
chose DaVinci.
Pentaxian martyr complex.
I know, which you love. That's your biggest pet peeve is martyrdom. I started DaVinci Resolve straight
martyr
up.
complex, but
sorry.
I don't think people should be martyred.
I straight up started using DaVinci because it's free. Straight up.
Yeah.
It's
That's how they get you.
And it's great. And you honestly, there hasn't been much need to necessarily upgrade. It is difficult not being able to do 10-bit files. But it's come such a long way. It's easy to edit. Even I can do it, and it's free. So I think everybody should at least give it a try. You've got some powerful features with nodes. Even if you just want to do a basic magnetic timeline, though, it's very straightforward.
I hate the nodes.
It works well.
The nodes are what I remember being like, this is terrible, and I left.
It's a lot to wrap your head around.
But when you see the nodes explained, and then you it's like astrophysics. It's like you get it for a bit, and you're like, wow, that's incredible. And then when you go to actually use it, you're like, I've forgotten every single thing about it. But it is powerful. Anyways.
Right, we gotta get there's so much more. We have a limited time. All right. This is from David Hartfield. He emailed, he says, I recently bought a Canon 14 to 35 millimeter lens.
Great lens.
I need to outfit it for a trip to Iceland with a CPL ND 6-stop and a 10-stop. Will this system vignette at 14 millimeters if I stack the filters? If so, what do you suggest to overcome this?
I mean, straight out, honestly,
absolutely vignette.
Yeah,
yes, I shot with this particular combo when we did the R6 II. And yes, absolutely it will if you stack more than even a slim. I have some really thin filters. Maven filters I really like. They're magnetic ones. And more than one, it's going to vignette on you. So you will have to use step-up rings or a filter system if you want to avoid.
Like the ones that you fit
ring,
around the back and then like clip on like the larger ones?
No, step-up ring will work, right? You can increase the diameter of the filters by just going to a much bigger step-up ring, but then that means getting new filters for the larger filter size. They're going
And
to
it's
be
a
more
big
expensive.
thread already. You're like 95, I believe, is the next step up. If memory serves, that's an 82 millimeter.
Other thing you could do is get a stronger ND. They're hard to find, but you can find like 15 stop ND filters, 20 stop ND filters, and then you only have one. But yeah, either way, you're plunking some cash down. Or you don't.
I'm generally mixing NDs with polarizers, so even then, it's quite difficult.
Yeah.
My solution, which I strongly recommend, is shoot it at 15 mils.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. You can also experiment with some of the built-in pole ND combos. It's hard to get them in really strong strengths, though. And again, they're thicker than a standard filter, so they may or may not. So yeah. At 14 mil, it's going to be tough. I feel for you.
All right. Next one is from Ed Corbett, also emailed. Followed DP review for years, never knew who was behind the articles. Blown away by your review of the ZF in the sense that you guys were outside with the wind blowing and your audio was clean. Literally blown. Do you see what I did there? It's funny. All right. I looked and looked, but could not spot the microphone you were using. I saw the cables and assumed you were using a wireless transmitter, but no microphone. Could you take a second and explain your audio setup, Jordan?
We hooked these on Chris, so you go ahead, Chris. Explain what we do.
So we do a couple things. So you often will see our microphone because we do generally prefer to use like a vampire clip on the outside. Well, vampire. We like vampires. A vampire could take an alligator every time.
Any kind of vicious animal, you can call it that kind of clip.
Absolutely.
We'll also accept a pit bull clip and a tiger clip is also
tiger
fine.
Clip, whatever you want. Yeah. But that with some sort of wind sock, right? Like a dead cat or a dead kitten, but lav style, little small ones. Those work especially with jackets because if you got rustling jackets, you honestly want the mic out on the outside of the jacket. It does expose it to wind. Sometimes we do have to still angle our body away or wait for the wind to die down. It's a constant struggle. But if it's warmer weather and we're doing t-shirts or something, we're not going to just like pinch our shirt with a vampire clip. It looks terrible. So we actually use undershirt stickies. And that might be where you're not seeing the microphone because it's actually on the inside with a double-sided tape sticking it to the inside of the shirt. And then again, we're still going to have like a sort of like dead kitten kind of thing on there. That works pretty well for me. I've got a hairless chest, so that's not a problem. Jordan, it can sometimes be an issue because he gets a little scratchies.
I've really thought about just shaving a perfect circle in the middle of my chest for those lavs specifically, but then I was reminded that I would look stupid and my wife would probably not. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I should ask her, like, is this a cool look?
Care.
She'd respect your professionalism.
You can get these little circle things too, these little stickies on Amazon or Adorama. And they're I think I don't remember who makes them, but they were relatively easy to get.
Rycoats are fantastic.
We like the Rycoat stickies. Yeah,
we know some sound engineers, and that's all they ever use, and they've worked really well for us. So,
but there you go, and thanks for enjoying our ZF review. We appreciate that.
All right, well
now you know who the writers are at DP Review. I guess I don't know.
A lot of the time it was
very much.
Once in a while, it was Jordan and myself, though. Yeah.
Well, you write a lot for PetaPixel now, and I appreciate both of you for it. All right, moving on to the ZF video, and never read the comments. Daniel Dugan says, the micro SD card slot is a brilliant idea. I wish Sony had thought of that for the A6700. Any chance the Z6 II gets a firmware update with a lot of these new features like 3D tracking and internal 10-bit video? What do you guys think?
I don't think that they're ever going to give 3D tracking to the Z7, Z6. I just don't see it.
Ever, even in a completely new version.
No,
new version. So you're saying they won't firmware update a previous camera?
Yes, they are not going to firmware update to 3D tracking. I just don't see it happening. 10-bit video on the 2 series, the processing should be able to handle it. What do you think, Jordan?
That's what's so frustrating is when they announced the Z6 II, Z7 II, they said the major upgrade is we put dual processors in them to support future firmware updates. They did have 4K 60 to both of them, which I will give them credit for, but that's it. That was the big promise of it, and both of those specs were announced when the camera was announced, and it's going to get 4K 60 in the future. It sucks. I would love to see 3D tracking, internal 10-bit, something to take advantage of those dual processors, but they haven't done it. And now that we've seen the ZF, I strongly suspect they'll be rolling through a Z6 III and a Z7 III very shortly with a lot of those new features, and I'm sure those will have it, but it leaves kind of, Z6 II, Z7 II owners out in the cold a little bit, and they didn't get everything that was promised, is my impression of it, and it sucks.
Yeah.
All right. Next question is from Crash. Now, I say it like that because it's spelled crash, but there's an E after the A. So Crash. This is also on the ZF. Beautiful camera. I'm sure it would be a great retro stills camera, ellipses, if it would have a usable screen. Why do manufacturers keep putting video selfie screens on serious stills cameras? Even Fuji upgraded the screen from the X-T4 to the X-T5.
Yeah, I don't know. World split on this.
I like the very angle, personally.
Right, where you're actually, so just for the viewers, that's where you're like actually extending the screen out to the side of the camera.
A lot of them call it flip out, but it's called the very angle.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind that. I get that it's a bit weird, but even for low angle stuff, I actually like being able to have that second handhold on the camera with the actual screen itself. I actually find that quite comfortable because I can easily manipulate the screen angle while also stabilizing.
And you can flip it around to protect the screen if you're not using it.
Sure, yeah.
Can't do that with the tilty.
And I do use it quite a bit, honestly, for video work. I know we're talking about photography here, but for video work, when you want to make sure you're composing yourself, like right now, getting the camera set up, in a lot of cases, it's nice to have that screen to flip out just so I can make sure that the composition's good. So I like it. I've never, and here's the other thing, I've never actually seen one of those break. I'm sure it's happened, but I've never done it. And if I haven't done it, it's pretty unlikely because I should have done it by now. So,
and we worked in a camera store for almost a decade, and
very rarely.
I never saw.
Yeah, where is that mentality that they're easy to break coming from?
I don't know.
Because
it's out on an armature.
Oh, because it just looks like it. Okay.
I mean, I would say the little, like the ribbon cables coming out of tilt screens.
Yeah, those
a lot of them are like exposed. Those seem very fragile.
Yeah.
To me. Again, I haven't seen a ton, but by the time those were becoming more mainstream, we were already like off the floor into DP review.
And again, there's different designs. I mean, Nikon's made some interesting stuff. A Sony A7R5 screen is fantastic. It's kind of like a best of both.
The Panasonic, the tilty flippy screen is great. It's
that's
just
the
big.
Best.
It's
and
just
it's
very
on
large.
The A7R. The A7R5 has my favorite. I've been moaning about this for a while. My favorite LCD design, and it's only on that one camera that's not optimized for video. It makes no sense. I do quickly want to just throw out, like, these companies do market research before they release product. And I know that Fujifilm started putting those fully articulating screens in because they saw, hey, our retro cameras are used a lot for video. The people who want like cool aesthetics and stuff, a lot of them are TikTokers, YouTubers. Those cameras were doing double duty. And I suspect it's the exact same thing. Like the ZFC, a lot of people were using it as Nikon's vlog camera before the Z30 came out. So I'm sure they're carrying the same mindset. Like, yes, this isn't purely a photographer's camera. It's a good looking camera. And a lot of video shooters care about that as well.
Next question is from Across 186. This is in the reference to the best things about all camera brands video. I love the lighting and colors in this video. Very pleasing to watch. What are you guys doing differently now? Are you doing anything differently?
Well, we had an assistant. Go, Chris.
We can combine that with @Dylan Life Creative, the next one as well. The lighting on Chris for a lot of shots looks augmented. So my oldest son came out to help us out operate our portable light. So we almost never have somebody to help us out. So having that extra crew member that can hold a portable light, we were using the Westcott LB60s. They're a great little LED, actually put out quite a bit of power, and you can run them off L-type batteries. So we can be, in the middle of a field and use it. So, and it made a difference. So, I mean, that's great. You guys are appreciating it. You're seeing the difference. So we'll try to drag him out more often, maybe if we can get him to do that.
A lot of the time, I'm setting up a shot on a monopod, locking it as tight as I possibly can, and running over beside Chris with a reflector, which is silly. And there have been multiple times where the camera has been blown by the wind and I've caught it as it's tipping over, or on occasion not caught it, which ties into the theme of this episode. I've always said the greatest way to add production value is to have more people. So yes, I am saying, like, if Kai's willing to come out and help us more, I would love to have him out more often to like hold a boom so we don't have to worry about rustling clothing noise or lights, reflectors, all that kind of stuff. It's a huge boost in production value, and we'll be doing it more in the future because I loved grading that video. I was like, threw a LUT on. I'm like, perfect. The contrast is already great. We're done. Yeah. So it was wonderful.
Okay.
Which one should we do next? We're running out of time.
Yeah, let's do the speak pipe from Alicia Faye. Alicia? How do you think she didn't say her name?
Maybe they'll say in the speak pipe.
But let's listen in.
In the podcast, Jordan makes a comment about how we're attracted to retro cameras because we're artists and we care about how things look, and so we gravitate towards them. I agree with this. I'm a model, I'm an artist, and my camera functions like an accessory to me, and I want to look like an accessory as well. My whole deal isn't photography, it's just a part of my life. However, my options are really just Fujifilm, and that really annoyed me. Because I think Fujifilm looks good. I just think their designs are uninspired and like really stuck in the past, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just there isn't a lot of options. And I think that sort of echoes a frustration I have with the camera industry in general. It's very grounded in history, even when it doesn't make much sense. And I really wish they tried new things. And I want to know if there are any other examples you can think of.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting how we've seen camera design kind of go in two directions. Either it has to look as much as possible like a late 90s, early aughts DSLR, or something that your parents used to take pictures with. And I did kind of love that early period at the beginning of digital where they were like, well, look, we're not constrained anymore by having to run film through this. Let's experiment with some interesting
I feel
designs.
like DP Review did like a article about this, and it was like the 10 weirdest camera designs. Like one of them looked like a ball on a stick. I saw one. It was very strange. So it's not like they haven't tried, but nothing has really taken off like this very basic box.
Yeah, they threw everything at the wall. In the 90s,
people have an idea of what a camera should look like. And I think everyone's very resistant to deviate from that. But there were some brilliant designs that we've really left behind, like the Nikon Coolpix where you could rotate the lens around was a really smart decision, I thought.
Sure, but it wasn't sexy.
See, there's this fixation on sexiness, which I also find is very rooted in history, Chris. Like we agree, like a TLR, a classic Nikon, things like that. There is a lot of nostalgia at play there. But a lot of the time, it would be nice to see them experiment with something that's more about function than gorgeousness. But then, unfortunately, we'll get it in our hands, and the first 30 seconds of the episode will be like, well, this thing isn't sexy, but let's see if it can do a good job.
It's tough because human hands haven't changed, right? So there's certain design cues that just have to be retained, right? The way that we take pictures up to our face or handheld at distance, we have modified our behavior a little bit on how we hold phones and how we hold point and shoots and how we compose now with mirrorless cameras. But at the same time, you have these traditional tools here that we all have, two of them, most of us anyways, here that we manipulate cameras with. Yeah, my hands here. And so you're limited in that function. And like companies have tried to break the mold a little bit. I mean, Sigma made some cameras that were almost unholdable.
Yeah, but they look different.
They look different. It was an attempt, and we have to appreciate that because if it fails, you lose a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of effort.
That's where the key is here. Most companies are not willing to take the risk because it might
especially
fail.
now with the market.
Just look at what happened with Key Mission and Nikon. That set them so far back because that so much money was lost on the Key Mission program. That you can't take a risk like that anymore.
It's tough. So I would love if everybody could take all these wild risks, and we see that a bit with smartphones, maybe more so. But with camera gear,
even the Key Mission talking about it, they had that one of the three was like a stick designed to sit in a pocket as a camera. That's a smart design idea that failed.
Yeah.
So, okay, I have moved. We had some other questions in here, several that I wanted to get to, but they are longer, and we are running out of time. So we're going to do just one more that Chris really wanted to address. This was an email I received. I'm going to read it aloud, and I'm going to do my best here. It's from
I'm going to try not to get angry.
Nikon and Canon are Japanese names and should be pronounced as the Japanese do. Nikon is something close to Nikon, where the apostrophe indicates a very slight pause and the ko is slightly nasalized. I think I did a decent job, Nikon. Canon is not like English. Canon, like a shooting it out of cannon, but something close to kanon, with the no slightly nasalized and again very slight delay before the N sound. Note that neither syllable in both Nikon and Canon, I'm not saying it the way he's telling me to, is accented. Both should have the same emphasis. And then he tells us why he knows this. I agree. That is how it's said in Japan. He's not wrong.
Yep,
but
correct.
he's basically saying that we need to say it like that.
I'm trying not to swear.
Yeah, I don't want to have to mark these things on the uploads.
It makes me so mad. I get it. We have okay. I'm half Japanese. I know how to pronounce these things. Okay, that's not the problem. The problem really comes down to I don't think we should. I fundamentally disagree with this person about it, and we've heard this from many other people. Like, oh, you guys are saying it wrong. Nikon, Canon, like. Canon and Canon aren't even that different, right? They're very similar sounding. The thing is, like, the important thing to talk about here is he said, okay, I used to work at Advanced Micro Devices, and he had a fellow Japanese person working at this company say, oh, no, you have to say Nikon. You have to, and drove it into him. That's not the Nikon Corporation executive telling you that, because we've dealt with these people, and they don't want you to say it the way the Japanese say it. They don't want the people in the UK to say it Nikon. They can say Nikon, and they're fine with that because they're a company that want to share their cameras around the world. They've been doing this for decades, and I bet you that pretty much every executive in a camera company celebrates how particular regions pronounce these cameras, right? I mean, Pentax isn't a Japanese word. Do they want us to be saying Pentax or Pentaxi? They don't want us to be doing that, right? They love that everybody says it Pentax. So anyways, it makes me crazy and mad, and I'm going to continue to say it Nikon because we're in North America.
There's another example of this too, is like originally I feel like Nikon was going to give you a hard time about the Z, and then eventually
I was going to bring that up.
Gave up,
sure.
Right? Okay, you go. Is that it? Anything else to that, Jordan?
Yeah, that they eventually deferred to like people's own regional, how they pronounce it. But the point I wanted to make, Chris, is if Nikon felt so strongly that that's how it's supposed to be pronounced, then their North American reps would be pronouncing it that way, but they don't. Every executive from Nikon is like, hey, we're here from Nikon to talk about our exciting Z7. And then eventually that became Z7 in Canada because they stopped fighting against the tide of language.
And all of Europe actually, I think, says Z. It's only in the United States and in Japan.
It's just the US that says.
And Japan. They say Z too.
But it's also, can we not celebrate that people say things differently? I mean,
we should.
Even in the UK, right? I mean, something as basic as thanks. Some people will say thanks. Some people will say thanks. Some people say thanks. I mean, it's the
in Japan, it's sunk you.
Language.
There's no TH. It's sunk you.
Yeah. So from now on, and I don't expect Japanese people to pronounce Chrysler the way that we do. It's not like, give me a break. It's ridiculous. So, but from now on, I'm not going to say Nikon. I'm not going to say Nikon. I'm going to say Nippon Kogaku Kogyu Kabushiki Gaisha from now on. Okay. So there you go. You're welcome. All right?
Our reviews just got 3 minutes longer, each Nikon review.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Chris, I'm glad you got that off your chest. I'm glad you addressed it. Yeah, a little bit, mostly.
Till the next time.
Next week, all three of us will be together again in a soon-to-be revealed location for a soon-to-be revealed reason. So
it's going to be fun. Stay tuned.
Yeah. So see you next week. That's all I got.
Thanks for our best week ever, everyone.
Thank you.
Yes,
we really appreciate
leave those
it.
comments. We want to hear from you on your experiences. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.